Marchemont, and I am New Sector's National Training and Evaluation Strategist. Today, I have the great pleasure of walking you through how to prepare for New Sector's matching process so that you can land the job and launch your career, what we have endearingly called landing your career in the social sector. New Sector is committed to your success in our program. We will go the extra mile to ensure that you are successful in your early social sector career. That said, you will only get out what you put into this course and our program, including your hard work, your time, and your idealism. This online course is our first step in supporting your career development and module number 1 of our Social Impact Leadership curriculum. Today, our objectives are to enhance and improve upon your existing application materials, to get you into the type of role you want, to help you gather all of the materials you will need for your upcoming New Sector alumni coaching session, and finally, to prepare you for success in the New Sector host site matching process. This online course is broken into 4 sections to achieve our objectives: career action planning, resumes, cover letters, and interviews. Each section includes a pause for practice after an overview of New Sector recommended best practices on each of these topics. Like I said, you will only get out what you put in, so when I prompt you to pause, and let me warn you, I will be quite persistent about it. Please actually do it. Yes, gather your existing materials for the topic at hand, apply recommended best practices from the course, and compile all newly revised documentation in a folder to send to your New Sector alumni coach. At the end of the course, I will ask you to email all of your preparation materials to your New Sector alumni coach. Your coach is, in fact, waiting on these materials to make the most of your one-on-one session, so please don't let your coach down. Let's get started. This first section of our course is all about action planning for your career. In order to achieve your goals, you must start by knowing what they are and then planning the steps to get there. When imagining your dream job, it's important to start with your goals in mind. We recommend taking 2 steps to start this process. First, break your goals into groups. Short-term goals are those that you aim to achieve in less than 1 year. Long-term goals are those that you aim to achieve in 1 to 5 years. Then, make sure that your goals are SMART. This is a pretty popular term or technique in the social sector. SMART goals are those that are specific, meaning that you identify your goal clearly and specifically. Measurable, which means that you include clear criteria to determine progress and accomplishment. Attainable, meaning that the goal should have a 50% chance or greater of success. Relevant, meaning that that goal is important to you and relevant to your career. And time-bound, meaning that you commit to a specific time frame. Let me give you an example. Let's Strategic career planning involves thinking about your dream job from a variety of angles. You may love working with children, but maybe you don't like the bureaucracy of schools. Maybe you love promoting sustainability in the environment, but you don't like door-to-door advocacy. We encourage you to use these simple question prompts to help you think it through. First, why? Why are you interested in making an impact? Next, how? How do you want to contribute? As in what way? Third, where do you see yourself adding value? Fourth, are any of your goals time-bound? And fifth, how will you use your network to support your career development? In your course materials posted online, you will find a Pause for Practice worksheet to create your career action plan. This 2-page document includes a career goal self-assessment and career development action plan. In the self-assessment, you are asked to reflect on your background and your professional preferences, and then turn your passions and idealism into short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. Use the tools we just reviewed to help you think about this self-assessment from multiple angles. The second half of the worksheet asks you to create an action plan. I recommend entering in the short-term goals you've identified in the middle row to get you started. This worksheet prompts you to identify where you want to develop skills, where you're at now, what resources you currently have, and what action steps you can take to get to those goals that you dream of. Breaking down each of your goals in this way can make even the biggest of dreams more achievable. Now it's your turn. In this Pause for Practice on career action planning, I want you to gather any existing mind maps or journal entries on your dream job. Apply recommended best practices from the course, and then save the worksheet that you complete in a file folder, ready to review with your New Sector alumni coach. Now seriously, it's time to pause. Push the pause button, please, and get to work. I'm waiting. Have you stopped yet? Have you paused? Seriously, pause now. Go get those materials. All right, I hope you've paused now, because I'm going to let you get to work. Now that you've clarified your goals, both long-term for your career and for this career launch with New Sector in the short term, we need to beef up your application materials to land you the job. We'll start with your resume. An employer looking at your resume does not spend much time. The purpose of these resumes is to showcase your skills and accomplishments and demonstrate that your talents and interests fit the job description. That is, the job description that you've applied for, not just the generic one, maybe in your mind. Baseline resume sections include a header with your name and contact information, including phone and email. A summary, which is a brief paragraph written in third-person sentences that overviews your skills. Education, as in your degree and your major and minors, year of graduation, and any relevant coursework or study abroad experiences you may have had. Your experience, including paid and volunteer work. And each of these should include the organization, title, and engaging bullets. Finally, a skills and competencies section that includes technology, any languages that you speak, or highlights from your past experience, especially things that you do in your personal life, which may reflect upon your character. Given that New sector focuses on early career professionals, I'd like to address several questions we often get in our live career development trainings about the education section of the resume. First things first, experience or education first? Which one should I put at the top of the page? In general, our rule is if you have less than 5 years of experience, your education should be listed before your work or volunteer experiences. Next, should I list my high school education? If you've taken college courses or have a college degree, you should no longer list your high school education on your resume. It's now become what we would call irrelevant. It's not that it's not important. It's just that now your college takes precedence. That's what we want to highlight on your resume. Not only should you remove things like high school that are now irrelevant, but also any other high school experiences you may have included that are not directly related to the new job you wish to have. Next question. Do I need to include my GPA? This one is a toughie and is a cause for quite a bit of debate in many of our sessions. If you are a student or a recent graduate, do list your GPA, especially if it's over a 3.0. Consider including a lower GPA if you are in a very challenging program at one of the top schools. Add your major GPA if it happens to be higher than your overall GPA. Oftentimes, we find that early career professionals have not invested as much time in their earlier courses in their career, but their major GPA, which are the things they care about most, end up being quite a bit higher. If your school doesn't use a standard 4.0 scale, avoid confusion by listing the scale itself. So for example, if you have a 4.1 GPA, explain what that is out of. Is it out of a 4.5? Clearly, it's not out of a 4.0, which is the norm for most of the individuals that will be reading your resumes. As your career progresses, your college GPA will become less and less important and can eventually be removed. We would recommend removing your GPA after you had about 3 to 5 years of experience in the career field. Next question. Do I look egotistical if I list my honors and awards? Reality is, if you have them, include them tastefully. If you have a BA in English with university honors from 2016, please do list it. We'd love to celebrate this success with you, and your future employers would too. But do so tastefully. Don't take up too much space with these awards. Next question. Why list my relevant coursework and study abroad? As an early career professional, you may not have worked in a job similar to the one that you want just yet. Like in that example I said before with human rights work, I had done quite a bit of human rights related coursework. I had also done some volunteering, but I never actually worked in that area yet. That said, highlighting my relevant coursework or study abroad experience in Spain demonstrates my ability to understand key concepts and work with diverse teams. These skills are transferable, and that's why it's so important to highlight the fact that you have experience with and have dealt with these topics in the past. One of the more challenging aspects of writing a resume is making sure that your bullets are engaging. When you're building your bullets for your resume, think about each bullet as a step-by-step process with the 4 steps listed here. Step 1, sum it up. What exactly did you do anyway? Maximum 1 to 3 sentences. Step 2, give it action and power with strong and diverse verbs. Step 3, make it quantifiable. That means show the results of your actions with numbers and examples. And step 4, review and set your bullet apart. Make sure it shows a new skill or achievement each time. Let's go through these one by one. Step 1, sum it up, as in what did you do? Think about all of the things that you have done in your education and career so far, but in particular, for that job that you're trying to write this bullet for right now. Think about the activities responsibilities, any volunteering, any trainings received, papers, manuals, maybe materials that you developed, funds raised or managed, leadership and management experiences, networking that you did for that company or organization, and any planning that you did, maybe even volunteer events or activities at your university. Make that list, write it down. Next, give your bullets action and power. You want to start each bullet with an action verb in the past tense. There is an exception to this rule, however. For current positions, you want to write the responsibilities in the present tense and accomplishments in the past tense. Don't use the same word twice in the same job section. If you said organized something a few bullets earlier, do not use organized XYZ again. For each bullet, seek out more powerful verbs. I have some examples listed here below. Instead of saying you were responsible for some project, try explaining that you orchestrated or chaired that project. The powerful verb chaired gives the tone of leadership. It means that you've taken charge. And as an employer, I want to know that you can take leadership on the projects that I give you. Orchestrated makes me think about combining various elements to make one solid package. I want to know that you can see the big picture and hear how all the sounds fit together. Instead of saying something like coordinated, say something like, I designed or I founded this particular club or activity. When you designed a particular effort, it shows me as the employer that you can see something through from start to finish. You can think like an engineer and create something anew. When you founded a particular event, I know that I can trust you to pilot a new program that I want to launch this next year. Those things are really important when I'm reading your resume. Step 3, make your bullets quantifiable. If you can show a tangible result for your work, do so. Add numbers and achievements as a result of your work. Depth is always better than breadth. So in this example, your original bullet might have read, organized, implemented, and evaluated a week-long health outreach program on my university campus. Well, I want you to add more here. So leave that first part. It's great because it already says at least a little bit about what you did. But now, make it quantifiable, more powerful by putting numbers behind it. Add, you trained 24 volunteers to lead 30-minute health and wellness workshops in 35 classrooms across 7 departments. You reached over 1,500 students and distributed 3,000 vouchers for health and wellness stress relief appointments at the Student Health Care Center. This makes it sound much more engaging. It tells us the scope of your work, not just that you did it, but what you achieved. Step 4, set your bullet apart. Make sure that each bullet is different from all the others. Does it show different action verbs, new skill sets, different leadership capabilities, or different responsibilities? You want each of them to be something on its own, to stand on its own feet. Finally, review the whole package. Did the sum of all the parts justly summarize your experience? What have you missed? Go back and revise if needed. I know that it can be tough when you're getting to the end of doing your resume to consider adding on an additional section that captures your skills and capabilities. That said, this section can actually be really important and give that extra little bit of information that employers use to decide who you are, what you'll bring to their team, and how you'll contribute to their organizational culture. When thinking about the skills that you list, consider 3 types of skills in particular. First, job-related skills. Things that relate specifically to that job description. So if you've created a database, put that down. They want to know that you have those technical skills. If you took courses in accounting, or accounting is something that maybe you did at your summer job, make sure to list that too. Think about skills that are transferable, skills that are applicable to multiple types of roles. Management is something that ultimately you may have the opportunity to do long term in your career. If you're pushed into management, they want to know that this is something that you can do for the future. Research is another thing that most students have that's quite applicable to the work that they will be doing. Finally, think about work style. Are you reliable and detail-oriented? Get that in there on your skills. We want to know how we can use you in our workplace as employers. Finally, consider how you can use this section to round out your resume. Expand your skills section to both skills and interests, for example. Share some of your hobbies, ones that of course are appropriate for working in this field. Things like if you're an avid reader or a lifelong learner. We want to know a little bit more about your personality, your character, and what fun you'll bring to our office. And finally, include professional affiliations, conference participation, and any speaking engagements you may have participated in. These show that you can network, and that's really important in the nonprofit and social sector. As you gather the materials to revise your resume, we recommend that you build a resume database. News Sector does tell you to tailor your resume specifically for each job or role for which you're applying, especially in our matching process. That said, you do not need to recreate your resume for every position every time. Do save various versions of your resume or tailor language with clear targeted messaging by role type. Here are 2 strategies suggested by our alumni. First, keep a list of the jobs or experiences that you're interested in by role type, i.e. communications, evaluation, program management, and then keep the language tailored for every past experience in a file that's tailored toward that type of role. Next, keep multiple resumes on file. This is another option. Each can be labeled with the role type and the particular document that it's been tailored for. In your Pause for Practice worksheets, you'll find a resume checklist. It will help you think through how to make sure that your current resume has a great visual appearance at a glance for hiring managers that don't have much time when reviewing your resumes. Make sure to use an inviting and readable format, ensure language consistency, order your experiences with reverse chronology, and finally, keep it to 1 to 2 pages max. We'll also help you to remember how to highlight the substantive materials in those details in your powerful bullets. Make sure to highlight your transferable skills, take out anything that's now irrelevant, lead with vivid action verbs. Focus on accomplishments and results by making your bullets quantifiable. Choose specifics over generalities, and select personal and extracurricular interests and skills carefully if you do wish to include them in a skills and competencies section. Here we are again. Pause for practice, this time on your resumes. For this pause for practice, please gather your existing resume and or resumes and collect and think about all of the past experiences that you've had, whether it be in college or in some other jobs you've had before coming to be a News Sector Fellow. I want you to take the time now to apply recommended best practices from the course and use that resume checklist we provided online. Save all of your completed materials, your revised resumes, in a file folder, ready to review with your News Sector alumni coach. All right, get to it. It's time to pause. I'm going to grab a coffee while we do this, in fact. Would you like one too? Just kidding. This is a virtual environment. I guess you'll have to get your own. Back coffee break. I hope you're still working on this. If you haven't paused yet, you definitely should. This is an investment worth making to help you land your career. Let's move on now to discuss cover letters. Cover letters can be one of the most challenging aspects for early career professionals. We've certainly seen this in the past with our incoming new sector fellows. The reason why cover letters are so hard is because they really do need to be tailored to the particular job or role for which you are applying. It is vitally important that your cover letters directly address the things that the hiring manager needs to see in order to actually consider your application for the job. Let's go over some of the basics first. Cover letter basics are knowing that the purpose of these letters is to really tell your story, connecting your experiences, both personal and professional, back to the job. Bear in mind, like I mentioned when we discussed resumes, that hiring managers will really not take much time to review your application materials. Most hiring managers will only read the first paragraph of your cover letter, so you really need to make it count. Anytime you can, a name drop, as in talking about somebody you've spoken with at that company before, or an individual that you know that somehow connected to that particular organization, can often speak more than 1,000 words in the rest of your cover letter for that hiring manager. Recall that I said that cover letters are all about tailoring your message, and we want to help you tailor that message specifically for the social sector. What you want to do this is to make it clear which job you're applying for in the very first line. Then, customize the skills and experiences you refer to in the same language and terms that your employer used in the job description. This doesn't mean verbatim copy-paste. What it does mean is selecting the key words that the employer posted in the job description and including those within the cover letter itself. Next, you want to demonstrate your strong writing skills. This is your chance to show that you have good grammar, that you can form clear and coherent arguments, and that is going to reflect eventually on the future business communications that you have when working with that organization's clients or staff. We want to know that you can send a nice email and that you can help write our newsletters. Next, focus on the benefit for the employer if they hire you, not for yourself. This is kind of the opposite of the way that you write when you're writing a personal statement for college entrance. In those statements, you're really looking to talk about how this degree program will help you grow and achieve things in your life. But in a cover letter, your goal is to try and get the employer to see why you would be a wonderful person to join their team. For that reason, you want to make sure that it's targeted towards them. You are selling yourself for that role or that organization. And to do so, be sure to reference any volunteer or other nonprofit experience, especially as you're applying for jobs in the social sector. Finally, if you send in just a resume to a potential get the gist. Anytime you can, share an accomplishment that shows that you can address the challenges that the employer faces. If you worked at a summer camp every summer throughout college, you should bring that up when applying to educational nonprofits. They want to see that you know how to work with children, even if that's not the job that you will eventually have. Next, personalize to the job in the organization that you're applying for, and this includes the next bullet there, addressing your letter to a real person, i.e. the hiring manager, him or herself. If you can't find the name of the particular person, be sure that the title and organization are at least correct. Now, in the new sector matching process, we've made this easy for you. Our introductory emails between you and the individual that will be interviewing you have the person's name in there. Think about making sure, double checking, that you've used the proper person's name, even after you're on your third or fourth interview of the matching process. Some don'ts, one by one. Don't try to be funny. Too often it falls flat. Well, in this case, you actually have quite a bit of leeway. We recommend not trying to be funny as a rule. But that said, if you happen to go on to the organization's website and all of the employee profiles are everybody kayaking in rivers or playing silly jokes and wearing funky hats, then maybe it is time to introduce some humor into your cover letter to show that you can align with that organizational culture. However, if you go on to their website and you see everybody in suits and ties, assume that you should also match that same formal language. Next, don't send a generic cover letter. That's the worst. We can tell when you haven't even changed the name of the organization, and your cover letter and your application package as a whole will immediately be put at the bottom of the stack. Don't repeat your resume either. This is another classic mistake. If we've turned in your resume once, we don't need to see it again. What I really want you to do is tell me what on that resume is important. Not just important to you, but important to me. Finally, don't go overboard with flattery. You may really think that the work that this organization is doing is fantastic, but if you get too flowery, then it becomes unprofessional. Be sure to talk about how the work of that organization is inspiring to you, but no need to overdo it. Now again, it's time for our pause for practice, this time on cover letters. For this, please gather your existing cover letters, any that you've created before. And if you haven't created one, now is the time. Apply recommended best practices from the course. There's a worksheet available on our course website with cover letter how-tos. Once you're done, save your cover letter ready for review with your new sector alumni coach. All right, it's time. Hit pause on your computer. Let's get into cover letter revision. Have you paused yet? I've been waiting for you to hit the pause button. I find it really odd that you haven't done so far. Really and truly, minimize the screen. Go and get your cover letter. It's time to get creative and write. Great. Let's move on to interviews. We know that interviews can be one of the most anxiety-ridden portions of the job application process. That said, we want you to think about an interview more as a conversation, because it's just as important that you are understanding if this role is going to be a good fit for you, as it is that the employer understands that you're a good fit for their organization. Throughout the course of this particular section, please remember that what you bring to the table is just as important as what they are offering. Interviews can come in all sorts of types. Sometimes they're resume-based, attempting to connect your resume to the skills and experiences needed for the role, and oftentimes sometimes combined with behavioral. Behavioral interview types demonstrate your skills and experience through questions about specific situations in your response, and may be combined, again, with that resume-based format. There are also a variety of other interview types, although those two are the most common. Case interviews, which include demonstrating knowledge of a specific case or challenge and how to solve it. Stress interviews, designed to assess a candidate's response in stressful situations. There may also be tests or assessments involved in the interview process, and, of course, a variety of other ways that organizations screen their candidates, from phone screenings to group interviews and portfolio reviews. The purpose, though, of all interviews is pretty much the same. They want to learn about your skills, test your fit for the organization and for the role itself, examine your commitment to hard work and quality outputs, assess your interest in whatever it is that they're doing and what that role is going to be working on, and finally, sell you on the organization. Ultimately, this is their sales pitch to you too. There are 3 keys to preparing for interviews. First, know the organization and the role. Second, prepare to answer questions and provide examples. And third, practice, practice, practice. This is the whole purpose of us setting you up with an alumni coach. Let's get into the details here. Know the organization and the role. Know why you want to work at that organization and in that position. To do this, make sure that you research the organization in advance. Go online, dig through and look at their programs, mission, and values. Find the interviewers on LinkedIn and consider doing an informational interview, maybe with somebody else in the organization that can give you critical insights as to what is really important to be successful in that role. For New Sector, when we send you an introduction email to somebody that you will soon be speaking with for a potential job, make sure that you have gone through this step. They are expecting you to know something about their programs, something about their organization, and how you're going to fit into that bigger picture. You'll also have the benefit of actually knowing who your interviewer is before arriving, so be sure to take that time to check out some additional information on that person and see if there's anything in your background that overlaps with their own. Next, review the job description. Think of examples of how you've demonstrated each of the skills or different responsibilities that are being called for. This means that for each of those big bucket skills, maybe it's communications, maybe it's evaluation, maybe it's program management, I want you to think of a time in college or think of a time in your early career that you've demonstrated those skills and be able to tell a story, a narrative, around how you've demonstrated that skill in the past. Finally, read through your application materials again. Even if you've just spent the last 2 hours working on your cover letter and your resume, remind yourself of why you applied to work in the social sector. And in particular, look for the reasons why New Sector might have scheduled you for this particular interview, in this particular role. How do you think that your fit and interests align with the role and organization? Think about how you'll describe that in the interview when you get there. The second key to interview prep is to prepare for common questions. Think through your answers to the most typical questions that interviewers will ask. Here's how you do it. To begin, start with the "tell me about yourself" question. Think about an answer here that tells a strong narrative, highlights the most important things about how you've gotten to where you are today. That lasts only about 2 to 3 minutes. Do not rehash your resume here. The interviewer at this point has definitely reviewed everything on your resume. You've made it this far in the job application process. Now they want you to paint the picture for them. Tell them why it is that you're going to be successful in this role and how your history has contributed to that success. Next, ask yourself, what do I hope they don't ask me? And then prepare the answers to those questions. If you're really concerned about a particular question, consider putting it into your answer for the "tell me about yourself" portion. For example, if you're transitioning from, let's say, a major major in college that was in engineering to now nonprofit management, think about how you're going to address this and make sure that that is part of your story. Explain the reasons for the change and how you're prepared for this new area when describing yourself. Maybe you were really detail-oriented as an engineer, and now you can bring that to making strong processes as a manager. Think about other common questions too. We have a question bank for you with a list of common questions coming up. And don't forget to prepare for the questions that you'd like to ask during the interview too. I think that in many occasions in my past, I have been offered jobs specifically because I was able to ask intelligent interviews that revealed two things. One, that I had done my research, and two, that I was already thinking about how to be successful in that role, even prior to the interview. Finally, practice, practice, practice. Practice, but don't over-rehearse. There's no use in having a memorized answer. Remember, this is a conversation between you and the individuals asking questions. That said, you should write out examples or bullet points for key questions to help organize your thoughts. Have friends ask you questions, and of course, be sure to practice with your alumni coach. Do a mock interview, and if need be, have that mock interview be with one of our new sector staff members if you think that will help you be more successful in an upcoming interview. When you practice, practice in front of a mirror. That way you can see how you are communicating, not just verbally, but non-verbally. What signals are you sending with the way that you move your hands or the way that you're sitting in your seat? If you're crossing your arms or if you're slouching, that may be sending the wrong signal. Be sure to sit up and look engaged. Lean forward, nod when they're giving you answers to your questions. That shows that you're engaged and interested in what is going on and being said in this particular interview. Be sure to test drive your technology in interviewing via phone or Skype especially. It's the worst thing ever when you get into a Skype interview and you can't see the person on the other end of the phone. Or when you can't hear what the other person is saying. How can I offer you a job? Or how can you give me the right answers to my questions when I can't actually hear you at all and you can't hear me either? Be sure to prepare ahead to avoid those common pitfalls. Now let's talk through what to do during the interview itself. Let's run through some interview basics. First things first, you need to dress appropriately. That doesn't mean always dressing in a suit and tie. What that means is matching the organizational culture. So go online, take a look at the pictures that a particular organization has posted online of their employees. Are they all wearing business casual, or are they in suits and ties? From there, take your cue. Note that in the nonprofit sector in most of the cities in which news sector works, business casual will suffice. It matches the culture of our cities. Next, arrive in good time. This is your first impression. You don't want them to be thinking that you're going to be late every day for work, so don't be late for your interview either. Make sure to monitor your body language. Ensure that what you are saying non-verbally matches your verbal message. Expect the unexpected. Every point in the interview process, as soon as you walk in the door to the place where you're interviewing, is part of the experience, is part of your first impression. So when you're talking to the secretary who's shown you into the waiting room, be sure that you're having a friendly conversation with that individual, as well as the interviewer. Finally, ask questions. That's the whole reason that part of the interview exists. They want to know just as much about you as you do about them, so be sure to make it a conversation by asking questions, and not necessarily just at the end unless it's asked. Feel free to ask throughout the interview. In the interview space itself, it's important to engage both confidently and honestly. To do so, you need to show engagement and build rapport from the very start. Make sure to shake hands with a strong grip at the very beginning, but not too strong. Make eye contact throughout the interview and vary your posture so it doesn't look like you're just straight up the entire time, because that doesn't appear conversational or natural. Watch out for filler language such as ums and ahs, which can be really distracting. It's okay to be nervous. service and to have a few of these in there, but try not to make them the majority of what I hear. Take notes on who you meet, the questions you ask, and the questions you asked. You may have to refer to these again if you go back for a second interview. And be sure to show throughout the entire experience how likable you are. Just be yourself. If you made it this far in the new sector application process, we think that you are a viable candidate. We like you. Now all you gotta do is help us show our partners that you are that person that we said you are. Now, identify 3 to 4 specific selling points that you'd like to use to demonstrate your added value and describe your fit with that organization. Have examples of each point, and reiterate these selling points multiple times in your interview. You want them coming away knowing what the key things are that you want them to hear. Make sure that you say these selling points in your Tell Me About Yourself section, and then repeat them again when you're talking about strengths and weaknesses, and one last time at least when you're asking questions. Remember to be honest, but with a positive frame. If you're talking about your weaknesses, don't lie, but you can say a weakness with a positive spin. Finally, don't get tripped up by question wording. Focus in on what the interviewer is really asking. If they ask you for a conflict through which you worked in a former job, but you don't have a former job, that's okay. What they're really asking about is how you work through conflict with a team. So, think about times in your experience at university in which you worked through a conflict, or built a team. Those will suffice. That's really what they're asking. The most common types of interviews, as I mentioned before, are resume-based and behavioral interviews. And these, luckily, offer a great opportunity for you to manage your strategy and key messages. In these interview types, which are those that you'll be experiencing with New Sector and our matching process, remember that really what you're getting at is why this job, why the industry in the sector, why this organization within the industry in the sector, and why this particular job function. You may be really passionate about social justice, for example, but it's not enough to just focus on that. What's really important is, are you going to enjoy working in an organization of this size, either this small or this big, and why that particular job function, be it direct service or working behind the scenes in data management, is going to be really key and workable for you. The other thing that you want to be answering throughout these interviews is why you. You have so many things to offer, and it's important to focus on highlighting the key themes that will make a lasting impression on the interviewer. Identify 3 strengths that you bring to the job, and for each of these strengths, the values that connect that to the role that you have been applying for, or will be applying to. Then, how your stories can be used to highlight these key strengths. This way, you can make the most of the opportunity to tell stories. And remember, an interviewer will remember a story more than they'll remember some facts or some anecdotes. What you need to do is really put together that picture for them. Let's jump into an example of an interview strategy that addresses the why you. Presume, for this example, that you're applying for a role in volunteer management. And before this, you've been a club president, and you led a canned food drive at your university. The strength here that you really want to project is your strong project management skills. The value to the role, the sub-strengths that you're presenting are detail orientation. Maybe you'll be able to work with important data-oriented work. You did this when you kept track of all of the food you were bringing in from different classes or departments around campus. Time management. You had a lot of jobs with a variety of different responsibilities in addition to leading that food drive, but you were able to make it successful. And finally, you're updating high-level stakeholders. So if your work, for example, is executive-facing, or maybe you work with the provost at your university, you're able to relate back to that experience and show how it helps you to be a strong project manager, how you can be successful in that role. There's a strong likelihood that you'll be asked about certain experiences. So So make sure to find a way that your stories highlight those strengths that you're focusing on. Common behavioral questions ask about your experiences with teamwork or leadership, problem solving, conflicts, or challenges. This is a good opportunity for you to do a brainstorm yourself for some common roles in the sector. Consider thinking about what you would say and what strengths you would talk about if you were applying for the role of a communications coordinator. How would you frame your strengths and your experiences? How about an operations assistant? What strengths do you bring, and how do you frame those in your experiences and the stories that you tell? Asking good questions is a key portion of the interview and typically happens right at the end of the conversation. These questions should help you to learn if this role and organization is a good fit for you, to show that you can ask well-researched and thoughtful questions, and to allow you to ask about next steps in the process. Be sure to take notes of the questions that come up during your discussion, and make sure that you don't ask them again, let's say in a second interview. Some sample questions are provided here. Some common ones that we hear or that we recommend are, what does professional development look like here? Clearly, if they're investing in you as a new sector fellow, they care about the development of you as an early career professional. That said, you may be interested in what professional development and growth opportunities look like long term. Another common question is, I noticed one of your values is XYZ, collaboration. Can you tell me how you see that in the office space? This will give you insight into the organizational culture itself. Finally, another good question is, can we walk through what the reporting structure looks like? In this case, you're able to see how processes work and the different actors that you might be collaborating with along the way. Anything that you can do to reveal what your daily routine will be like will help you know if this is the right fit for you. There are some questions in an interview which you flat out shouldn't answer. First, what are your salary requirements? In this case, try and indicate the range that you'd be willing to accept, always aiming for the higher end of the pay scale band, but save specifics for the negotiation itself. Any questions that are asked about race, sex, sexual orientation, gender or gender identity, religion, age, disability, family status, financial position, or other personal issues are actually not legally permissible. Therefore, in these cases, you should take a side route. You should say something along the lines of, I appreciate your question, but I don't believe that that particular aspect of my personal identity has anything to do with my success in the role. I'd appreciate it if we could move on to your next question, please. Once you have completed an interview, be sure that you follow up, reflect, and prepare for next steps. What that means is that you should send a thank you letter, ASAP. If possible, an email the day of the interview with a follow-up note later, if you want. Employers definitely like to get a card in the mail. This shows that you've gone the extra mile and really do appreciate their time. You want to follow up with other key players. For example, sending additional information if requested during the interview to the operations manager or HR director. You want to update people who helped schedule the interview, i.e., New Sector Alliance, and those internal or external to the organization with which you interviewed. Reconsider when it's all over whether or not this is a good fit. Think about the size of the organization, room for growth in the future, organizational culture, the job function itself, and if it's a good fit for you, the variety within the role. Is this the same routine every day? Something that you'd be willing to cope with? And also consider supervision and mentoring. Who is going to be overseeing you? And did you like that person when you met them today? If you're no longer interested in the role, let them know. In the case of the new sector matching process, let us know too. As you go along, keep preparing for additional interviews. Write down the unexpected questions that you got in the last interview, or things that you wished you had done differently. Go back and practice, or come up with a better answer to that question that you think you flubbed. All right, another pause for practice. Whew! This time on interviews. I want you now to gather any existing interview preparation materials that you currently use. If you have a list of answers that you've jotted down or some notes from your new sector interviews, go and peek in on those. Now apply recommended best practices from the course. There's a worksheet available on our course website with interview strategy guide. There's also some example questions. I want you to save any materials that you prepare in a file folder, ready to review with your new sector alumni coach. All right. Have you pressed the pause button now? You should be pausing if you haven't paused already. You know, I'm waiting for you to push the pause button so that you can prepare for this interview. Our alumni interviewers are taking quite a bit of their personal time to help you get ready for this matching process. Please invest the same. Fantastic work. Now that you've taken the time to review your application materials and prepare for a mock interview, it is time for you to get ready for your alumni career coaching session. The alumni career coaching session will take place over the course of 45 minutes to 1 hour. Expect it to be broken into 3 separate parts, each lasting approximately 15 minutes. First, there'll be some time to get to know you, your goals, and your aspirations. Next, you'll go through and review and edit the resume and the cover letter. And finally, you'll practice your interview and receive feedback from your alumni coach all about how you can have better answers or structure your answers so that they get your key messages across. In order to get the most from your alumni coaching session, be sure that you take these steps before you get in there. Please email the following materials to your new sector alumni coach in a compressed file: your completed career action plan, your revised resume for each type of role that is of interest to you, a revised cover letter, again for each type of role that is of interest to you. If you took advantage of the pause for practice opportunities in this course, you should actually already have this file folder full of recently revised materials for the new sector job placement you hope to land in the coming weeks. Your alumni coaching session will be much more productive if your new sector alumni coach has these materials in advance. I want you to also come prepared with the last 2 items listed here: a completed interview strategy guide, and the top 3 questions that make you nervous in interviews. No need to send these to your alumni coach. Consider this the cards in your back pocket. But please do use them as you're engaging with your alumni coach in the mock interview portion of the session. If you'd like any additional resources for the material we've covered today, please refer to the sites listed here. In addition to our many years of experience advising early career professionals in the social sector, we have pulled upon these sources in the development of this course. Please feel free to take it back to the source for more depth and advice. For now, thank you for taking the time to update your application package and prepare for your alumni coaching session. On behalf of myself and the new sector team, we welcome you to our fellowship program and look forward to working with you throughout the matching process.